Hey everyone, Dr. Erik here from MedBetterHealth, where we talk and help caregivers on all things dementia. Today's topic is going to be very relevant to the many of you listening there in the virtual world. Today we're going to talk about when eating becomes hard in dementia, right? And we're going to help you navigate through dementia, nutrition, and the hidden mechanics of a meal, because it's important for you to understand what are the mechanics of a meal. Why does a person living with dementia have difficulty with eating? So, are you ready? Follow me. Let's go. So, the iceberg of refusal. Now, what do you see above the water? What you see is, well, maybe it's just a dementia progressing. Maybe dad just being stubborn and he doesn't want to eat his food anymore. Maybe he doesn't like my cooking. Maybe they're just acting out. Maybe they're just too picky. That's what you're actually seeing above the iceberg. But below the iceberg, there's certain key aspects that are affecting the refusal of your loved one to eat who has dementia. So let's go through some of them. One is cognitive. And we'll go deeper. I'm just going to go through them right now by categories, and then we'll take a deeper dive. One is cognitive. One could be physical. The other could be sensory. And then you have environmental as well. So why don't we dive into each of these specific categories, and we're going to break down the neurology of a meal. I like that, the neurology of a meal. So think about a meal. What are some of the phases in a meal? Number one is the sensory phase. Well, what happens in the sensory phase for you, the caregiver, for me, Dr. Erik, listening, right? Well, first we notice, right? So I have to see the food and I have to smell the food, right? So I have to notice it and smell it. Well, one of the breaking points in persons living with dementia, think about it, is decreased smell and decreased vision. That's due a lot of the times to the neurological changes that are going through the person living with dementia in their brain. Number two, there's the cognitive phase. Well, not only do I have to see and smell the food, I have to recognize that this is food in front of me, right? Now, you and I do. But the question is, depending on the level of dementia and the stage of dementia, mild, moderate, or severe, right, they may not recognize. So forgetting what food is, forgetting what it looks like, forgetting what a fork is, forgetting that I have to start and make a decision cognitively to start eating food. That's number two. Let's move on to number three, the motor phase. Well, now that I've seen it, I've smelled it, I've made a decision that I want it because I'm able to, well, I have to actually coordinate my posture, take my hand, pick up the fork, and have the ability, the physical ability to take the food inside my mouth, right? To bring the food into my mouth and to chew it. Now, what's the breaking point there? A lot of the times, they're unable to do that. And a lot of the times, the motor phase also involves me chewing, understanding that I have to chew, and swallowing. So if I'm unable to understand that and do that then, because I have the cognitive and the motor phase breakpoint, I'm holding and pocketing food in my cheeks. And then there's the autonomic phase, which is super important. That's where, okay, I understood and I have the ability to swallow and to chew, but now there's a signal that's sent to my brain saying, swallow it. From my brain, I'm swallowing it, and there's a reflex over here, right, that protects the food to go into the right place. So everything is connected. And why don't we go through over here what happens very often in persons living with dementia, which is aspiration. And you may not notice it. You might just think dad is coughing and mom is coughing, but what they're really doing is aspirating. What does it mean to aspirate? Well, let's take a look at the mechanics of swallowing and dysphagia, right, which is difficulty swallowing. So, you know, we obviously have the mouth, we have the esophagus, we have the trachea. What happens is, in Alzheimer's disease, the nerves and muscles of the mouth and throat fail to coordinate, right? Think about it. the actual neurological connection in the brain is disrupted. And therefore, what happens is that the nerves and the muscles of the mouth and throat fail to coordinate. And the chain reaction is that what your loved one's going to be doing every time they eat something, and if they cough and they know it and they feel uncomfortable with that, you give them the food, you go through all those phases, and then they're just holding it in the mouth. Mom, swallow. Dad, swallow. And they're not swallowing the food because they're afraid of coughing as one thing. And very, very important, dysphagia, difficulty swallowing, in persons living with dementia is vastly underdiagnosed. And when they food pocket, when they keep the food inside their cheek, right, they're food pocketing it, it's just thought of as they don't want to eat, they have dementia, they're being picky, but in reality, they're fearful of swallowing because they may be coughing every time. And you will see that. You'll see mom drinking on something or eating something and start coughing and start coughing. And that is a sign of dysphagia. Now, this is not medical advice. You shall certainly speak with your medical professional, your doctor, your neurologist, but I'm giving you an educational high-level overview here, right? And that is a red flag for some type of swallowing problem in your loved one. And what happens is, if the food doesn't go into the right place, it's supposed to go into the esophagus, right, the eating tube, but it goes into the trachea, and the trachea then leads into the lungs, and you have this food over here that goes into the lungs. What do you think happens when food and not air goes into the lungs? Someone starts to cough, right? And what happens? That food doesn't belong there. So if it sits in the lungs, what happens? Somebody gets a pneumonia. So if your loved one gets recurrent pneumonia over and over again, 4, 5, 6, 7 times a year, and you're like, man, why is mom getting this pneumonia recurrently? I want you to think about dysphagia and aspiration. Super, super important. And one of the telltale signs could be that they're not swallowing, they're holding the food inside the pocket of their cheek because they know what's going to happen. They can't tell that to you, but they know that uncomfortable feeling. Okay, super important. So sensory and physical blockers, very, very interesting. Dehydration. The brain no longer recognizes thirst. So when I get thirsty, I recognize that I'm thirsty because my brain is sending a signal, and I want to drink, I want to take a water bottle and I want to drink it, right? But in a person living with dementia, that's not the case. The brain no longer recognizes. They will not ask for water, right? So what you'll see is dizziness, dark concentrated urine, right? Because there's not enough fluids in the body, so the urine gets darker. Increased confusion. The other stuff is oral health, unseen pain. Think about it. You give your loved one something to chew, they actually have pain in their teeth every time they go. They need a root canal. They can't say that to you, but every time they have that sweet stuff go on the tooth, oh, it hurts them. So you give them the food and they go like, they spit it out. Why? It may be a dental problem, right? These are all things that are so important to think about. So clues. Chewing on one side. So they always chew on one side. They spit out hard textures because the hard food, when they chew on it, what causes it, it makes them feel like pain on that area. They can't even have the food touch the tooth because of the sensation of it. Sensitivity. Investigate broken teeth or ill-fitting dentures, right? So that requires a dental visit. Now, sensory loss. Food tastes bland or is visually indistinguishable from the plate. So a lot of persons living with dementia have sensory loss. And medication and GI. Side effects of certain medications can actually cause a metallic taste in the mouth, can decrease appetite, can cause nausea. So look into the list of meds with your doctor and say, hey, are any of these medications that mom or dad is taking or my loved one, can it affect their taste, their appetite, their sensation, their nausea? Maybe that's the reason they're not really eating, right? And what's important for you to think about, and this is the diagnostic matrix, is what you see versus what it means, all right? So let's go through this together. Observation, spitting out food, refusing hard textures. What you see, you may think it's just, oh, they're spitting out food. They don't want to eat. It's the dementia. I want you to look for dental pain, sores, loose dentures. That could be one of the reasons. Action, schedule a dental checkup. All right, that's step one. Number two, holding or pocketing food in their cheeks. And we talked about this, but I want to give you a review now. Swallowing fatigue, dysphagia. Remember we talked about dysphagia. Forgotten motor planning. They're not able to know how to plan to chew. Check for swallowing safety. You want to go and do a swallowing test, right? Especially if they're coughing or they're aspirating. Every time they eat something, they're coughing it up. You want to have a swallowing test. You can ask your doctor about that. Pushing the plate away, agitation, right? They may be visually confused, overstimulated, or in pain. Wet, gurgly voice during or after meals, right? If their voice sounds very wet or gurgly, or they start coughing a lot, you know, you want to make sure it's not the silent aspiration, because the non-silent aspiration, you can hear someone coughing. The silent is the voice starts to be a little gurgly, right? Liquid in the airway. Stop forcing the fluids. Speak to a speech language pathologist, right? All these things are super, super important. So if you're listening to this and you're saying, wow, this is incredible information. I'm a caregiver. I'm taking care of my mom. I'm taking care of my dad or my husband or my wife. And, you know, when I usually go to my doctor's office or my neurologist's office, no one really sits like that with me and explains this stuff. And I'm kind of like there for 15, 20 minutes and I'm out, right? Does that sound like you? I'm sure that sounds like you. Comment below if that has happened to you, right? And the beauty of what we're doing here is really encouraged by a new program that we, my company, MedBetterHealth, has been selected to do. And I want you to look this up. It's called the GUIDE model, Guiding an Improved Dementia Experience. And my company participates in this program. What is this program? This program is specifically for people living with dementia and their caregivers. And it focuses on the caregiver. So imagine if you, the caregiver, had someone like me or a care navigator who was your concierge go-to person. And at any time you had a question about something like this, you can call and ask questions. And imagine if it doesn't cost you anything. And imagine if you don't have to change your doctor, you don't have to change your insurance, everything stays the same. Here's another thing. Imagine if at 10 o'clock at night, something's going a little off. Mom is seeing some ghosts or she's acting a little strange and you don't know who you're going to call, right? Imagine having a 24/7 hotline, helpline that you can call at MedBetterHealth, and one of our specialists will help and walk you through that situation and guide you to the right resource. Or here's the last thing I'll say. Imagine if you're exhausted and you're burnt out and you are thinking about, man, I wish I had some time for myself. And what happens is MedBetterHealth, through the GUIDE model, can send a private duty home care agency to your home to take care of mom or dad while you catch a break. Well, you don't have to imagine that anymore. This is a reality. If you're interested in learning more about this program that can help you, I want you to visit our website right over here, or look at our QR code. We also have below in the description the link to our website. In the website, when you go to the link, you'll see a video about the GUIDE model. It's a 5-minute video. I want you to watch it. It's going to give you all the information about this incredible program. I want you to fill out a form. Below, you'll see it with some real general information. Our team is going to reach out to you then and help you through this process to get started into the GUIDE model. I'll see you in the next video.